In this video, we're going to be discussing the origin of fungi. Hi, my name is Eduardo Hernandez. I am the creator of Emergent Chemical Evolution, the newest theory on the origin of life. I am also the author of the book by the same name, available in all major online retailers. No better kingdom of life, I think, would benefit more from my theory than the fungi. This is a kingdom that has organisms that have different modes of, not transportation because they don't necessarily transport, they're not modal. What they are is that they spread by extending copies of itself throughout the environment and create networks of cells that transport food among each other. Now, they have different modes of creating these networks. They have different modes of reproduction. They have different modes of getting their progeny through the environment, the creation of spores, the creation of different types of spores, different types of structures to transport those spores, different modes of ingesting the food that they find. And that is another key issue with fungi. They require very moist environments and feed on dead organisms, which would, the scenario that I post for the origin of plants is a similar type of origin for fungi, in the sense fungi are not photosynthetic. They decompose other animals, not other animals, other life forms. It could be animal, non-animal, it doesn't matter to them. What it is that I can imagine that earlier, before animals have only existed on this planet since 500 million years ago. Prior to that, there were no roaming animals in the water environment or the land environment, obviously. So that any organism that expired and through actions of the waves would find themselves on any land or any rock formation, that nutrient will be lost to the watery environment, so that is another niche that would have been created, a niche where nutrients and material would be available on land or on rocks outside of the purview of the water, so that any organism that would be able to attach itself to rocks and be able to then grab a hold of these not yet decomposing material, but these materials that are accumulating on the land, would be a survival benefit to this organism, an evolutionary benefit to this organism, because it will become perfectly situated to take advantage of these non-living byproducts that are accumulating on the land. Now, my theory is best suited for this because in fungi you're going to find different types of membranes, different types of cellular structures, different types of reproduction of these organisms, several stages that allows them to go from asexual to sexual reproduction. And these are mechanisms that are highly developed, but so far apart from each other that having an origin from a single ancestor, cellular ancestor, makes it kind of hard to trace, genetically speaking, the origin of these organisms to a single ancestor. More easily, it would be if the ancestor further back in evolution would have been precellular, as is my theory states, because all these organisms still only share the DNA type of not the DNA, the transfer RNA type of translation of DNA. They all share it. That would only happen at the stage where the viroid would be the common ancestor of all living organisms. Therefore, from there, you can have these different types of organization of DNA, the splitting of the chromosomes with different mechanisms, the different types of chromosomes that can form also would benefit from originating at the viroid stage, according to my theory. That makes it much easier for these different types of sexual and asexual type of reproduction to evolve. It goes in a direction that allows it to originating from viroid origins. It would make it much easier for these different types of organizations of DNA chromosomes, because it would be much harder once that type of chromosome is created or is reproduced for another system to evolve to start forming those chromosomes in a totally different way, which would be detrimental to any organism if it had started that way, to come and therefore change the chromosomes in such a way that it could stop a lot of metabolic processes and halt the reproductive system. So I think the level of organization and divergent evolution is much better explained, especially for fungi, where they would need to, these different types of fungi would have originated from different types of pre-fungal origins, because they would have been different types of cells that could attach themselves to, that would evolve the mechanism of attaching themselves to rocks and land, and then taking advantage of the accumulated dead material on these structures. And then naturally these different types of organisms would have different types of means of getting themselves to that material, as in creating the networks of other cellular structures First of all, with fungi, you have molds, yeast, moss, not moss, lichen that have a symbiotic relationship with photovoltaic organisms, cyanobacteria. So these are things that could occur without the presence of animals, because in order for these fungi to get themselves around on land before the advent of animals, they would have had to have come up with structures to spread their spores. That's why you get so many different types of mushroom, different mechanisms for releasing spores into the environment, aided by wind or water. So naturally, it would have been uninterrupted evolution for fungi to occur on these structures that allowed the diversity of the fungal kingdom to occur. But be it that they're so different from each other, the different members of the fungi family could only stem from originating from different types of cellular structures that would have naturally evolved if life had originated from a precellular common ancestor compared to a cellular ancestor that would have to have diverged so much in its membrane chemistry and membrane structure to evolve into all these different kingdoms. I think is untenable, and I think my theory better explains the origin of fungi and these different kingdoms based on the diversity possible from having a common ancestor in the precellular stage of life. Thank you. And again, I forgot to say what freaking video this is.